The storm fell heavy over Makonde City, drowning streets in rivers of mud. Inside a sleek black SUV, Chief Adewale Olorin, one of Africa's youngest billionaires, watched the chaos from behind tinted glass. He was used to moving the world with a signature, a deal, a phone call. But tonight, the rain had brought traffic and impatience. Then, through the downpour, he saw her, a woman, barefoot in the mud, holding a crying child close to her chest. Cars splashed water over her as she knelt, begging silently, her eyes fixed on the ground. Adewale leaned forward. His voice cut through the sound of thunder. "Stop the car." The chauffeur froze. "Sir," I said, "stop." In that instant, as the billionaire stepped into the storm toward the woman, neither of them knew. The rain was about to change everything. Chief Adewale Olorin was not just wealthy. He was power itself wrapped in human form. At 42, he had built an empire from dust. His story was told in whispers across Makonde City. How he went from a struggling trader's son to the chairman of Olorin Holdings, a company that stretched from oil fields to five-star hotels. People said he had the golden touch. Everything he laid his hands on turned to fortune. But beneath the shine of wealth, there was a void. Adewale lived in a mansion with 10 bedrooms, marble floors imported from Italy, and chandeliers brighter than the stars. Yet, every night he dined alone. His wife had left years ago, unable to keep up with his endless hunger for success. He had no children, no family to soften the sharp edges of his existence. His heart, buried beneath layers of ambition, had grown cold. So, when his eyes fell on the woman in the rain, something stirred inside him. Her face was not unfamiliar. It carried the same look he once wore as a boy who had known hunger, rejection, and shame. He hesitated, his umbrella trembling slightly in his hand. Musa, his chauffeur, whispered urgently, "Sir, please, this area is dangerous. Let us leave." But Adewale did not move. He was not looking at danger. He was looking at a reflection of his own forgotten past. The woman's child whimpered, thin arms clinging to her neck. The billionaire's heart tightened. Memories of his mother flashed before him. Her walking barefoot to the market, carrying baskets heavier than her own strength, refusing to eat so her son could have food. Without another thought, Adewale reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a crisp bundle of cash. He stretched it toward the woman. Her eyes lifted slowly, filled with both gratitude and pride. She shook her head. "I do not beg for money, sir. I beg for bread." Adewale froze. No one had ever rejected his wealth before. Money was the language he knew best, the weapon he used to win every battle. But here, in the rain, his billions meant nothing. And for the first time in years, Adewale Olorin realized that money could not buy the one thing his soul had lost, human connection. The storm showed no mercy. Rain lashed the streets, the wind howled between buildings, and lightning cracked like whips in the sky. Yet Adewale stood there, his umbrella dripping, facing a woman who had just refused the one thing he thought solved every problem: money. She clutched her child tighter. The boy, no older than 5, trembled in her arms. His lips were pale, his breathing shallow. Adewale noticed it immediately. This was not just hunger. This was weakness born from days of emptiness. "What is your name?" Adewale asked, lowering his voice. "Amara," she said, her tone soft but firm. "And the boy?" "Chima." Adewale nodded slowly, then glanced at the traffic. Drivers honked, splashing mud as they swerved past. Some stared, astonished that one of Africa's richest men was standing ankle-deep in filth beside a beggar woman. Yet Adewale did not care. "You said you do not beg for money. What is it you want?" Amara lifted her chin slightly, her eyes sharp despite her weariness. "I want work. I want a chance. Bread earned is sweeter than bread given. But until that chance comes, I ask only for food to keep my son alive." The words struck Adewale harder than any business negotiation ever had. She was not broken. She was not begging for luxury, just survival with dignity intact. Musa leaned closer, whispering urgently, "Sir, please, let's go." You can send someone later. But Adewale's decision was already made. He closed the umbrella, letting the rain soak his expensive suit, and extended his hand to Amara. Come. Tonight, you and your boy will not sleep in the rain. She hesitated, suspicion flashing in her eyes. Life on the streets had taught her that promises often carried hidden traps. But then she looked at her son's fragile face, his body shivering against hers. With trembling fingers, she placed her hand into Adewale's. The billionaire pulled her gently up from the mud, shielding both her and Chima as best as he could. Together, they walked toward the waiting SUV. Inside the car, the warmth of the leather seats surrounded them. Chima leaned against his mother's chest, already half asleep. Amara whispered, "Why are you helping us?" Adewale looked at her through the dim light. His voice was steady, but his heart raced with emotions he had buried for years. "Because once," he said, "I was you." The SUV glided through the flooded streets, its powerful engine cutting through water that swallowed smaller cars. Inside, silence filled the space except for the soft hum of the air conditioner and the occasional cough from little Chima. Adewale glanced at Amara, who sat rigid, clutching her son as if afraid someone might tear him away. Her soaked clothes clung to her thin frame, and her hair dripped water onto the leather seats. She looked both fragile and fierce at once. "You have a story," Adewale said at last. "Tell me." Amara hesitated. For years, she had carried her pain in silence. Yet something in this man's eyes, wealthy as he was, felt genuine. She drew a shaky breath. "I was once a teacher," she began, her voice low, "in a small village outside Makonde. My husband, Obinna, was a mason. We were poor, yes, but happy. He built walls with his hands. I built mines with mine. Life was simple, but it was ours." Her eyes darkened. Then came the accident. A collapsing building. He didn't make it. The company denied responsibility, and with no savings, I couldn't fight. I lost my husband, my home, and eventually my job. The school closed when the government cut funding. She paused to adjust the shawl around Chima. The boy stirred but did not wake. "I came to the city hoping to find work," she continued. "At first, I cleaned houses. Then, when Chima fell sick, I spent everything on medicine. Employers grew tired of my absences, and one by one, doors shut in my face. I sold what little I had, and when nothing was left, the streets became my only shelter." Her words weighed heavy in the car. Musa's hands tightened on the steering wheel, while Adewale leaned back, staring out the rain-streaked window. He was used to stories of struggle. He had climbed from poverty himself. But hearing it this raw, this close, was different. "And yet," Amara finished softly, "I will not give up. As long as I breathe, I will fight for my son." The SUV slowed as they neared Adewale's mansion gates, tall and golden against the stormy night. Amara's eyes widened at the sight, but she held her son closer, whispering a silent prayer. For the first time in years, Adewale felt the heavy chains of loneliness loosen. He did not know it yet, but this woman's story was about to collide with his own in ways that would reshape both their destinies. The mansion gates swung open, and the SUV rolled into Adewale's sprawling estate. The compound stretched like a small kingdom, fountains, trimmed hedges, and lights glowing against the storm. Amara blinked, clutching her son tighter. To her, it felt like stepping into another world. When they entered, servants hurried forward. But Adewale raised his hand. "Leave us." His voice was calm yet commanding. They obeyed instantly, vanishing into the shadows. He guided Amara into a warm sitting room, where golden drapes swayed softly, and the scent of polished wood filled the air. Chima was placed on a couch, his tiny body sinking into the cushions. For the first time that day, he smiled faintly in his sleep. "Eat," Adewale said, signaling for food to be brought quickly. Platters of steaming rice, grilled fish, and fresh fruit soon filled the table. Amara hesitated, and used to abundance. Adewale noticed and urged, "Please, your son needs you strong." Tears welled in her eyes as she took a small bite. She had almost forgotten what it felt like to eat without fear of tomorrow. As they ate, Adewale studied her closely. The rain-soaked woman before him carried a quiet dignity that stirred something inside him. She was not broken. She was resilient like steel hidden under silk. But questions troubled him. Why had fate led him, of all people, to her path? Why tonight, in the storm? When the meal was done, Adewale spoke. You said you wanted work, not charity. Tomorrow you will come to my company. We will find you something fitting. Amara's fork froze mid-air. You would give me a chance? Adewale leaned back, his eyes firm. Not a gift, a chance. You will earn your bread as you wished. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Amara whispered, May God bless you. But deep in his chest, Adewale felt something shift. He was not doing this out of pity. He was doing it because, for the first time in years, someone had looked him in the eye and spoken the truth. Not to his wealth, but to his soul. And that was when he realized. The rain had not only changed Amara's fate, it had begun to change his as well. The next morning, Amara arrived at Olorin Holdings, nervous yet determined. Dressed in a simple borrowed gown, she carried herself with the same dignity she had shown in the rain. Employees whispered as she entered, curious why their powerful chairman would personally escort a woman who looked so ordinary. Adewale led her straight to the Human Resources office. This is Amara, he said firmly. Find her a position suitable to her skills. She was a teacher once. The staff obeyed instantly. Within hours, Amara was assigned to the company's literacy program, teaching young workers basic reading and writing. Her eyes shone with gratitude as she thanked him, but Adewale only nodded. Later that day, while reviewing reports, he paused. He realized he had not thought about profit margins or new contracts all morning. Instead, his mind kept circling back to Amara's resilience, her courage, and her refusal to let suffering define her. And in that quiet realization, Adewale discovered something he had long forgotten. Wealth meant nothing if it could not lift another soul from despair. Weeks turned into months. Amara blossomed in her new role. Her passion for teaching lit up the program, and soon, workers who had once struggled with simple sentences were reading newspapers and writing letters to their families. She brought life wherever she went. Chima's health improved too. With regular meals and proper care, the frail boy who had once shivered in the rain now laughed freely in the mansion's garden. His laughter echoed through halls that had long stood silent. For Adewale, the change was profound. The mansion no longer felt like a cold palace. Dinners were no longer lonely affairs. Amara and Chima's presence filled the emptiness he had carried for years. He found himself smiling more, listening more, even remembering the joy of his own childhood before wealth hardened him. One evening, as the rain fell softly outside, Amara said, Chief Adewale, you didn't just give me a job. You gave me back my dignity. Her words sank deep. For the first time, Adewale felt that his billions had truly mattered, not because they bought power, but because they restored hope. The rain that once symbolized despair had become, for them all, a symbol of new beginnings. Months later, Makonde City saw another storm. Heavy rain lashed against the windows of Adewale's mansion. But this time, it was different. Inside, warmth and laughter filled the air. Amara sat at the table helping Chima with his writing, while Adewale watched quietly, his heart lighter than it had ever been. He realized something powerful. Wealth was not measured in numbers, bank accounts, or estates. True wealth was in the lives touched, the dignity restored, and the hope reignited. The same rain that had once trapped him in traffic had brought Amara into his world. What began as an act of compassion had turned into transformation. For her child, and for himself. Adewale often repeated the words Amara once spoke in the storm. Bread earned is sweeter than bread given. And now he believed it fully. The rain had not just changed everything that night. It had changed him forever. Cloud with rain sparkles moral. Life can turn in a single moment. One act of kindness can change not only another person's destiny, but your own. Loudspeaker if you believe in the power of kindness, compassion, and second chances. Don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories like this one, because sometimes, just like the rain, a story can change everything.